Hello everyone and welcome to me and my colleagues' presentation about Cadbury and their connection to the child slavery on the cocoa farms in Africa. To get you to know more about this case, we're going to go back more than 100 years, all the way back to 1906. This was the year when information about slavery hit the British media for the first time. Especially affected of this was Cadbury, since Cadbury at the time was the biggest company in the chocolate industry. William Cadbury, who was one of the owners of Cadbury brothers, got accused for profiting from the labor system on the African island São Tomé and Príncipe, which by this time was a part of the Portuguese colony. The man who made this accusation was Henry Navenson, who was a correspondent, a journalist, and was one of the most read writers about slavery at this time and had a big role in revealing about the African islands. However, this made William Cadbury investigate on his own how the working condition on the African island was. But still, after doing this, he and Navenson did not have the same view on the problem. Cadbury trusted the imperial power and was focusing more on the working condition of the people that worked on the farm, compared to Navenson, who instead wanted a radical change of the colonies and completely wanted to stop the loss of freedom. Eventually, all of this media publicity led to a lawsuit. A few family members from the Cadbury family decided to sue journalists for spreading ambitious information and damaging Cadbury's reputation. And this was a lawsuit that Cadbury eventually won. And after almost 100 years from the first media storm, the information about modern slavery hit the British media again, this time mostly regarding child slavery. This time the news was about a ship from Benin that were suspected of carrying several hundred kids on board, aiming for the Ivory Coast to work on the cocoa farm. Today, almost 45% of the cocoa production comes from the Ivory Coast, which is later going to end up in England. Therefore, this discovery got much publicity since the question about slavery was brought up again. The case happening in the 20th century and the situation happening close to the day both have similarities and not. But their main resemblance is the European countries' power over the cocoa production and also the British role in the media exposure of the conditions on the African islands. Moreover, for you to get to know more about Cadbury and the chocolate industry, I'm now going to leave over to my colleague Moa.
Thank you, Cajsa. The media attention that was created from the child slavery issue threatened corporate sales and reputation for the chocolate firms. The firms were concerned with that the US government was going to put cocoa on the list of prohibited goods in the US, so the firms could not sell their chocolate in the US anymore. Companies began to identify responsibility for labor conditions, and they had to change their influence and responsibility in their supply chain. So the effect on the market then. The market responded more to actions from the government than to market pressure. So for chocolate firms, it is essential for them to have a positive reputation in order for them to capture the capital markets. And the pressure from consumers had little impact on sales. It was rather the action from the government that could damage the company. And since most of the value are captured in the supply chain, anything that could damage the supply chain would also damage the company. By at latest 2020, 5 major chocolate companies, with Cadbury included, have agreed to develop their supply chain in order to reduce child labor and trafficking. They are doing this by introducing an inspection system to control child labor in Ghana and the Ivory Coast. So what happened in the industry? The industry became liberalized and firms began to outsource the processing of cocoa. So Cadbury chose to still be a part of their processing and manufacturing of chocolate, so they still have control over the situation. And for Cadbury, it is important to state social economic factors in their supply chain. They were among the first firms to recognize that in order to not risk the supply of cocoa, they needed to raise awareness to sustainability. They have done this by putting fair trade products in their strategy plan, and they are doing this promote socio-economic sustainability. It is also important for them to maintain their position as provider of high quality chocolate in the market, and also to have a good relationship with the farmers in Ghana. So they launched a cocoa partnership to support cocoa farms, and it's an alliance with different stakeholders, such as a representative from Anti-Slavery International. And one aim with the cocoa partnership is to get the perspectives together and build an action plan. And the second aim is to recognize opportunity for the farmers, build sustainable livelihoods, and also support local community development.
The most discussed violation on cocoa farms nowadays is the use of child slavery. Several reports from around 2010 have shown that even the biggest chocolate producers in the world used cocoa in their production that was harvested with the help of child slavery. However, for the chocolate producers, it is really hard to know if their cocoa that they use in their production was harvested with the help of child slavery, since they buy their cocoa from wholesalers, and these wholesalers, they don't care if the cocoa is from farms that use child slavery or not. Cadbury, however, came up with an idea in 2009. They have faced similar issues 100 years ago, and they came up with the solution of partnering up with the Fairtrade Foundation. The Fairtrade Foundation set several standards to the cocoa farms and works closely together with them. One of the standards they set is that they are not allowed to use child slavery at all in their harvesting process. Therefore, Cadbury started to work very closely together with them, and they made sure that they bought only cocoa from farms that were actually certified by the Fairtrade Foundation. They even started selling chocolate bars that had a Fairtrade certificate on them, so the consumers could see that these chocolate bars were produced without any help of child slavery at all. In 2016, however, Cadbury suddenly announced that they wouldn't work together with the Fairtrade Association anymore. And the reason for that was that they would introduce their own sustainability program called Cocoa Life, which Dunia will tell you more about now.
Cocoa Life is a foundation initiated by Cadbury's parent company, Mondelez International. Cocoa Life has similar goals to Fairtrade concerning sustainability and the goal to put an end to child slavery. The advantage of launching their own initiation program is that they will save money. It costs a lot to be a part of a Fairtrade certification program. Another disadvantage which has come with being with the Fairtrade program is it's not an effective differentiation strategy on the market. Most other chocolate manufacturers nowadays either have their own certification program or they're part of the Fairtrade organization. However, this must come with some of its own disadvantages. One disadvantage is that most people don't know about Cocoa Life. Fairtrade is a known, credible organization. They're known for their transparency, for their activism, and for their reliance. They have people trust their process. They have processes set in place that ensures that their farmers follow the regulations. They have checkpoints where farmers must follow. Cocoa Life does not have that. Even if Cocoa Life have this, most people don't know it. Know about it. This faced a lot of criticism from their consumers, as people didn't feel like they can trust Cocoa Life. Responding to this criticism followed that Cocoa Life started to cooperate with Fairtrade again, not as being a part of Fairtrade's program, but more to cooperate to set up a transparent process where their goals are clear and where the process is, people can trust the process. In conclusion, we think it's a questionable move from Cadbury's side to initiate their own sustainability programs. There are already established organizations out there, like the Fairtrade organization, who is already established. They're credible and they're transparent in their process. People trust their process. People know about Fairtrade. People have known about Fairtrade during a long time. This cannot be said about Cadbury. Cadbury is a profit-seeking organization. Fairtrade is not. We think that Cadbury need to. We think We think it's a smart move from Cadbury's side to establish a cooperation with Fairtrade. They should continue to do so. And they need to realize that it will take time for the Cocoa Life Foundation to gain credibility and trust from the customers.